Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. Our special guest today is Mark Jacobs, and Mark is a renewable energy marketing professional. So thanks, Mark, for being professional about marketing this industry. And I think we could probably attribute, a few gigawatts installed solar and storage and things like that, at least to you, probably from your marketing and changing everybody's minds about solar and getting all the people that hated solar to love it. I'm sure that's all because of you, right?
I'd like to think it's in the gigawatts. We'll never know.
Yeah, gigawatts, terawatts, whatever comes after that. What is that, petawatts or something like that?
Yeah, no idea. Yeah, take your word for it.
Great. And so what connected us was that you came up with this cool idea because you were puzzled about something, perhaps, or tell us about your cool idea.
Yeah, great. So, let's just step back for a second. I think somewhere a couple years ago, maybe now, I heard that the stat that 15% of counties in the United States have effectively banned utility scale solar projects and wind projects. And that really stuck with me. And I remember just thinking, this sounds insane, So
Yeah. I know. What's up with those 15%? Hopefully those 15% of counties are in places where you can't build solar. Maybe, I don't know, is like New York City a county? Probably something like that. Or is Washington, D.C. a county? There's just like some places there's just no room.
I mean, the point of it was like in a USA Today article or something, but it was about basically communities who are like, against solar was really the primary message. I just thought this is kind of crazy. Just like, the politicization of this technology is absurd, right? So yeah, I basically about a year ago now, it was leading up to the holidays, I went looking for a jigsaw puzzle. It's the one time of the year where I personally, like to do a puzzle, with like family and friends. And I just was looking for a really beautiful, classic Americana rural scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted there to be solar farms in that, that farm scene, and it didn't exist. So I thought, oh my gosh, I have to make this. So I basically spent a very long time, more than I care to admit, on a mission to make a puzzle, that basically properly, incorporates solar into the American identity. And it started with finding a fantastic artist here in Oregon, and it was just, her name's Kathleen Russell. She was born and raised here. And she actually, prior to meeting her, I learned that she had been painting solar panels in like watercolor, which was just a crazy coincidence. So she said yes. She was wanting to do this.
So is that her picture that I'm looking at right now?
It's an oil painting. She did this oil painting over many months.
Yeah, so it looks like a farm with sheep under solar and like a red barn and, just Americana, like you were saying.
Americana. That's a beautiful farm scene. And yes, there's a lot of detail in there. And the other thing that happened that was pretty cool, though, is I learned that we here, I'm just outside of Portland, Oregon, we have one of the few puzzle makers in the United States here in Portland.
Cool.
So they literally have their production facility 20 minutes from me. And so we teamed up with them to make this. So it's very much like an Oregon story, but we made the scene hopefully feel like something anybody in America could appreciate.
Yeah, I think it's really cool looking, and we'll have links to this in the show notes for people to see what we're talking about with your puzzle here. But yeah, it sounds like a great way of kind of like changing the consciousness and making solar mainstream and things like that. Kind of reminds me of a friend of mine, Tor Valenza. You might know who he is, but he has a podcast about probably true solar stories, and he's trying to make solar part of popular culture. We'll put a link to that in the show notes too.
Yeah, that's the basic idea, just have it feel like it's just woven into our identity. And I don't know, just doing this project made me think of, okay, how often do you really see solar panels and on homes or buildings in the movies when you're watching them, right? So it's just kind of normalizing it. And I'm sure there's other things we could be doing. This puzzle's just like one idea. One thing I should say about it is that part of the proceeds of the puzzle go toward a nonprofit by the name of Twende Solar.
Twende. Yeah,
Twende Solar. It's based here in Oregon. That's building solar and storage systems for communities around the world that do not have access to electricity.
And you're on the board of Twinde, I guess?
Correct. That's right. Yeah.
And maybe you could tell us about Twinde and why it's so great.
Sure. So, I mean, the short of it is there's 750 million people that don't have access to electricity. That includes 186 million primary school children, tens of millions of secondary school students. And so Twende is all about fixing that problem and delivering electricity to where it can have the greatest impact in schools and community centers. We've done projects around the world, have installed 252 kilowatts of solar across 9 countries, including Ethiopia. We have projects coming up in Ghana and Ecuador. So it's just a fantastic organization. We partner with local organizations, local solar contractors to really just kind of empower them for the long term to build and maintain these systems. And yeah, it's just a really great organization trying to make a dent in what is a massive problem.
Is this something where perhaps, say, a solar installer or a solar professional can volunteer and go to some of these far off countries and install solar, sort of like Doctors Without Borders?
That has occurred in the past where we're shifting more toward really trying to build local capacity and local expertise and supporting local talent and organizations so that, we're just kind of building up that capacity in the places where we're trying to make a difference. So I think the opportunity there is maybe more in the training or education and filling any gaps in like expertise. But ultimately, this is really about setting up these communities for like long-term success. So they're not reliant, right, on Twende, to build and maintain these systems.
Great, great. Yeah, I know that has been one of the problems, at least in the past. And I heard about this, like 10 or 20 years ago, that people would go and build a solar project in some far off place, off the grid, maybe in India or Africa or something like that. And it would be great. It would be working. And then as soon as it needed maintenance, they wouldn't know what to do. And then a year later, the system wouldn't work. So you're making sure that doesn't happen, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Plus, with all the newer equipment, I imagine it's a little bit easier than it was back in the day to get something to stay working.
I would assume so. I can't speak to that myself, but that sounds right. And ultimately, though, I think that there's a lot of amazing organizations and solar contractors, and we're trying to find basically the areas where can we go in and just basically empower folks to make the most impact.
Great, great. I also see on your LinkedIn profile, you have something that you're a co-founder of is EV Math.
Yeah. Want me to tell you about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I like electric vehicles. I like math.
Oh, cool.
I kind of believe in math. I was just telling somebody how 3 + 3 is 9.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was just like, messing around. But actually, then we decided to make the gate 9 feet long. So it kind of turned out to be that way. We were going to should we make this gate 6 feet long? Yeah. And then we were like, okay. And I was like, yeah, it could be 2 3-foot doors. And then it ended up being 9 feet long. So it's going to be 2 4.5-foot doors. So
this is for your home project?
The thing that's behind me is we are building a solar training center. That's just a rendering of it, but that's what's happening.
Wow. Okay. That looks amazing. So yeah, EV Math it's interesting. I'd say it's pretty darn similar to this whole puzzle concept.
Great.
And that what we're trying to do is meet people where they are. So EV Math really has been a campaign here in Oregon to help rural communities save money by adopting electric vehicles. Okay. Rural folks tend to drive longer distances just for errands, school, and whatnot.
Yeah, I used to live in a rural area, and it was like half an hour to go to the grocery store.
So yes, exactly. So they can save more money if they switch to an electric vehicle. Now, the problem, right, as we all know, is that there's a lot of misinformation about EVs, just like there's a lot of misinformation about solar farms, right?
Yep.
So we just wrapped up a statewide campaign here in Oregon where what we did was tell the stories of 10 early adopters of EVs in rural Oregon. And we shared their stories. We produced videos featuring some of them, and we shared their stories with the rest of rural Oregon. So it was really about neighbors hearing from neighbors, okay? And trying to cut through all the noise about EVs and ultimately talk about how much money people are saving with electric vehicles. And not telling anybody to sell their diesel truck, keep your truck, but get an EV and drive that thing for most of your miles so that you can save thousands of dollars a year, like the people we featured in the campaign.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, people do like saving money, even rural people.
That's the math piece. We basically have built our own calculator. People can go to evmath.org. We feature the stories and we try to make it easy for people to crunch the numbers and basically see how much they could potentially save by making the switch.
Yeah. I always think part of the consciousness of people thinking about range anxiety has to do with when you have a gas car, you drive it until the tank is close to empty, and then you have to go find a gas station. But when you have an electric vehicle, you just plug it in every night and you essentially have a full tank every morning, and then you can go, pretty much as far as you want unless you're driving all day long.
Yeah. And that's what we talk about. The whole 80 to 90% of charging happens overnight while the EV owner is just sleeping, right? And I think it's just such a fundamentally different way of operating. I think it's hard for people at first to maybe, just fully appreciate that. But I was like reminded not that long ago about the anxiety because I drive an EV, but I experienced plenty of anxiety back when I had my gas powered vehicle, when I was worried if I'd make it to the gas station. I was running really low, right? So I think it's a different anxiety. There's still, some anxiety for longer distance trips, but for the vast majority of your life, now guess what? You don't have to go to the gas station. You just wake up to that full that you mentioned.
Or the oil change. I remember I was always like, busy and I'm like, I'll do the oil change next week. And then pretty soon you like went double the miles before you got the oil change. And I did go get my tires rotated. They need to figure out how to solve that problem. I just had to get my tires rotated. We still have to do that, but that's about it,
Yeah.
Yeah. And even with my electric vehicle, I have free charging for life and I barely ever use it. I'm trying to think of how many months it's been since I went and got free charging because I'm busy and I just plug it in at night,
We need more people to have free charging for life. How did you manage that?
I have a 2015 Model S. It's 10 years old. And anything, I think halfway through 2016 and earlier, has free supercharging for life. Unless somebody had sold it back to Tesla, they might remove it.
Wow.
But I know other people that have it too. And we're just not using it because it's like I have to go drive to a station and sit there sometime. And like, why do I want to do that? I could charge at home.
Sure.
I guess it would be convenient for somebody to have my car that is like an app driver, like an Uber driver or something like that. Because those people will spend like over $1,000 a month on charging sometimes.
Yeah.
I've talked to some of them when they're giving me a ride. I usually select the EV, the selection when I'm taking a Uber or a Lyft or something like that.
Oh yeah, there's definitely, some people out there could really benefit. I didn't realize that was a thing. That's a pretty cool perk.
Yeah, and I think once in a while it pops up again. Like I think they were trying to promote cyber trucks or something like that. And they might have thrown it in there for a little while or something. Okay. So it does pop up once in a while, but I definitely do know people that have it. I knew one guy that he got like the last one that you could get, So it's like the newest one that has it. And just speaking of the car now, that it's over 10 years old now, and it seems to work fine. I mean, there's little things where like the glue is coming out of the display screen, but I just put a piece of duct tape under it, It's like, speaking of rural areas.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern that the rural, communities have around, it's a new technology. They know how to work on their engine. Like, what am I supposed to do with this EV thing if it breaks down? And there's a bit of, just anxiety or concern around the unknown. And is this, how long is the battery going to last? How long is this vehicle going to last? But I mean, I don't know. I've been likening it to when you buy your gas powered car, how many people are thinking, how long is my engine going to last? How often are people buying their gas car and really concerned about that engine dying? Before too long.
To me, it's amazing that internal combustion engines do go as long as they do. I mean, you've got like all these explosions happening on all these cylinders and all this heat that's wasted energy going out the exhaust pipe and things expanding and contracting and, cars going at like 100,000 miles. That's kind of crazy if you really
Yeah,
think about
yeah,
that.
yeah. I guess it's all that maintenance cost. So, but we did the campaign, and what was really cool about it is that it was just telling the stories of
Hmm.
these folks, the early adopters in Oregon, and we would share these stories with rural communities. And what was really cool, we did this all on Facebook. Okay,
Hmm.
so we'd share the story of there's a gentleman named Robert Wallace who's part of the campaign. He's saving thousands and thousands of dollars a year thanks to his EV. And we posted his story online. A lot of people had a lot of comments. You can imagine when you go out there and you start talking about EVs in
Hmm.
rural communities, some people are like, get the hell out of here. We're not interested. Or like, this is bogus. This is AI generated, blah, 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 blah. But then what was cool is Robert would actually come and log into Facebook, his account, and he would engage with people. So they'd hear
Uh-huh.
directly from Robert, and he could dispel their myths, answer their questions, and he just engage in conversation. So it was really fun to see, and we're now hoping to expand what we did here in Oregon to other parts of the country.
Yeah, yeah, kind of some of the good talking points probably for people that are in rural areas for electric vehicles is things like independence. Like, what if oil prices go up and down, or, there's wars and they're funding, like people in different countries where they have, no
Yeah.
human rights and, they're like terrorism, all that kind of stuff. And instead, you could just like make your own energy. If you think about it too, like your puzzle, farming is renewable energy. It's the old renewable energy where you would power your horse with something that the horse ate. It's like photosynthesis, turning sunlight into energy. And so the same thing is happening with the solar, and it goes to your electric vehicle and all that. And you are working with the rural people too. And you mentioned like telling them not to get rid of their pickups. But that Ford F-150 Lightning electric pickup, I rented one of those and we went camping with it. And that was cool. And you don't need a generator, and you could like plug in 240 volts. And you can't really tell that it's an EV. Maybe they just need to get something that'll like, for the coal rollers, they could put something in there that makes a cloud of smoke, when you're in front of a Prius at a stoplight.
That's the first time I've heard that idea. I do know they have the audio systems
Uh-huh.
now that create the sound
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
engine, but I've yet I think you need to make the black smoke,
Uh-huh.
generator.
Yeah, like they do that for rock concerts and all that stuff. They have smoke machines. We could stick one of those on there. I wonder, maybe we could do steam, or there's got to be some way to, just make it happen.
Have you shared this idea with anyone until now? Is this a new concept?
I've joked about it before, but that's
Okay, this is
as
really
far as
good.
I got.
Someone needs to do this.
Okay, let's do it. All right.
But I'll
Yeah.
just say your whole point about like self-reliance and independence, I think that's probably like when someone gets to that point, when they see that or feel that, is really big. And I think there's obviously hurdles to jump over to get to that point. And one of those is no longer being worried that the technology is not going to work. Because if this thing I don't know doesn't work, right, then like now I can't be independent because I have to figure out what to do, how to deal with the technology. But if people get over all those hurdles and get to that place of like, wow, I can generate my own energy. I'm not, I can be independent. I think it just speaks directly to like who we are as Americans in a really powerful way.
Yeah, yeah. And I've thought about it too, just with like solar and storage and independence and all that kind of stuff. And you think about like capitalism and communism. Communism is known for you can only buy from the state or the one big organization. It's like a monopoly. It's like bread lines, all that kind of stuff. And capitalism is like you're entrepreneurial. Maybe you make your own energy. And so making your own electricity is more of the capitalist type of thing that would identify with rural Americans. And buying from the big utility is more like, communist style, socialist, all that kind of stuff. So that would
Yeah.
be another good way to market what
Yeah.
we're doing. You know?
There's a lot of opportunity for creative marketing. That's what I'm over here trying to do.
Well, let's act on some of these ideas. I would love to make, or just be involved with making something like coal rolling for EVs. That would be hilarious. And it seems like you're good at, coming up with different ideas and companies and startups and things like that. We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show. I did notice too that it looks like you have an MBA from Harvard.
Yes, I do.
So do you think that I could just get a copy of that certificate and then put it in AI and make it put my name on it? Because I don't want to have to go through all the trouble to get that.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to give you a copy. I think, I don't think you even need that copy, and ChatGPT can make that for you really nicely right now.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been doing lately is doing 3 at once. And so I put in my query to ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok all at the same time, and then I see what gives me the best answer.
Oh, really?
And I've started noticing too, like certain things work better on different things. Like, so one of the things is I'm like, make me an image with like words on it. Grok is terrible at that. Like it doesn't know how to put words in an image.
Interesting. Yeah, I struggled a lot with image generation. I don't use AI for a lot of image generation. I need to do what you're doing and dabble in more of the tools, but I focus more on research and some copywriting assistance now and again and other things too. But yeah, image generation is definitely an area where there's a lot of room for improvement. Which one do you think is best at that?
Gosh, I mean, I'm using a lot of words in my images, so definitely not Grok for that. And I don't know, I think it's kind of a toss-up. And sometimes maybe you're just lucky. Like sometimes I don't like it, I go start over, do it again, and then start from scratch, and then it works well. So the Solar Training Center, I made a little rendering, and I was trying to figure out the colors, and Gemini worked pretty good for that. And a lot of it is just practicing what queries to give it. But I was using ChatGPT the most, but now I'm starting to use Gemini just as much.
Interesting. Yeah, this whole AI thing, I'm sure we could spend the rest of our time talking about that. But I literally had the thought of like, going back to the puzzle, someone could have made that artwork just using AI, right? Like, and it could have been. So it's like, well, why did we do that? And I think anyways, this is a big topic for me as someone who's like in marketing and who's really like just trying to promote like authenticity and like honesty. I think something we all get to kind of grapple with right now with AI tools is how to use them in a way that still feels like authentic, because there's just so much slop out there. It's so easy to generate images now. It's like, I worry a little bit about us knowing what's made by a human, what's not. We have like a massive trust problem in our society, and AI is like on the verge of just making that much worse. So I just offer that up as something that I think a lot about. And I'm trying to thread that needle.
Yeah, one of the things too is I think a lot of it just has to do with luck and randomness, because you send it the same information 2 different times and you'll get like 2 totally different answers. And another thing that AI has is an overconfidence. So like I'm always doing like National Electrical Code stuff, and more often than not, it'll tell me something wrong and I'll be like, you're wrong. But it's like a tool. So you can't trust it for a lot of stuff, but it might, go like, give me an idea. And that's kind of why I use it, but I don't just rely upon it. It's not like I'm writing a book and letting the AI do it. Like, write me a book.
Yeah.
It would be the worst book ever.
The thing I've gotten a little tired of that I should probably just go, I use ChatGPT. I should probably go into my settings and change this, but the flattery of just telling me how everything I say is great and, oh, brilliant this and wow. I'm just kind of over that. I think it's funny because at first I just felt good. reached the point where I don't want any more flattery. Like, please stop.
Yeah, and then I get it too when it's wrong. I go, "You're wrong," and it's like, "Oh, I apologize," and it's just like, I don't need a 2 paragraph apology. Just give me the right answer.
Yeah, yeah.
And then sometimes there has been jokes out there about the end of the world in 20 years, and then the AI is saving somebody because they were polite to it. So should I be afraid to insult it or just get mad and swear at it or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
There's all that. I guess I probably should admit if I swear at my AI, but
Yeah, I try to be polite. I remember reading somewhere we need to stop being so polite because it's wasting energy
yeah, I
processing
read that
all the
too. Yeah.
politeness. And I'm like, oh my God. But at the same time, I think it's just good to practice being polite in general.
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
Yeah. But if you are going to vent on somebody, you might as well do it on an AI that has no feelings than a real
true.
human being.
Yeah, to its credit, it has no emotions, and I think it can really be helpful in some ways in navigating things and when we're, in maybe a more calmer fashion because it's just not.
Yeah, maybe we could learn from it because of how well it is at not getting upset.
Well, I'll give you an example of this for me so going to the EV math campaign,
Hmm.
one of the things I spent a lot of time doing was responding to comments that people had on Facebook in response to our campaign. Sometimes pretty darn heated comments. If someone was dropping an F-bomb or was really offensive, I did not engage with them because I'm like, this is not going to be a productive conversation. Other times, though, people express something, with quite a bit of passion or a little heated or a little confrontational. And as a human being, I read that and I can't help but feel my blood pressure go up a little bit, right?
Uh-huh. Sure.
But I'm like, okay, rather than trying to write a response to this and engage this person and see if there can be productive conversation, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to craft a response for me that I can then read and modify as I see fit. So I totally leverage, I did exactly what we're talking about. I used the cool-headedness, the calm, collected ChatGPT to help me write. I would literally say, I want to be diplomatic.
Uh-huh.
Trying
Yeah.
to be diplomatic. And what I would have to tell ChatGPT to do sometimes is because ChatGPT would want to come to my defense. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh, part of it's doesn't like the fact that people are talking at me or this campaign in not a nice way. But I got it to basically where it would just focus on being diplomatic. And I found that super useful.
Yeah, maybe we could use that in our relationships too. But
I think it's a good tool. I think it could be a useful tool, and maybe turning down the temperature a little bit.
uh-huh.
Because I think the temperature out there, the online dialogue and sometimes the in-person dialogue, yeah, the temperature gets hot and things don't tend to go very well.
Yeah, maybe anytime that people are arguing with their significant other, they should run everything they say through AI and then it'll tone things down.
Tone things down.
Yeah.
Here's a different way to say that.
Uh,
Yeah. You
yeah.
just hit record, you have your conversation, and then it kind of offers you some suggestions for how to make the conversation a bit more productive.
Yeah, we'll put all those therapists out of business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, really cool. So, where can people get your puzzle? And how much is it and all that? Yeah.
So the puzzle is $35. And as I mentioned, well, 10% of proceeds go to Twende Solar. It's being sold directly through the Portland Puzzle Company, their website. We don't have a short URL, so it's probably best to just drop the link somewhere and next to this conversation so people can find it. And it's not too late to get it before the holidays.
So the last day that you can order a puzzle to get it by Christmas is December 14th. Otherwise, you can get it for yourself for New Year's.
Hey, can I share something else with you?
Uh-huh.
I have to say this. You have to know that I'm pretty jealous of your LinkedIn profile picture, and you can kind of get a sense why, seeing this, what I've got behind me right here.
Uh-huh.
I just, for whatever it's worth, I mean, I'm a really massive Obama fan. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
yes, you can't fully tell from looking at, this,
Uh-huh.
but if I turn my,
Oh, there we go. There's the
I
Obama hope.
turn my, this is my,
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
it's just a whole shrine, this whole
Uh-huh.
place.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I gave Obama my book, Solar Photovoltaic Basics. So everybody out there, you should go get my book and you could be like Obama.
perfect Christmas present.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering that if Trump runs for a third term, does that mean Obama's going to run against him?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It probably would
That
be. Yeah.
would be, yes, that would be crazy. I'm just waiting for Trump because we know he changes his mind.
Hmm.
What I think could happen here between now and the end of his term is that solar could become big and beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big, beautiful solar, I think, is on the horizon.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's good to be positive like that.
You know?
That's how you make things happen, is you think positively about them. Yeah.
It's one person with some charisma, get right there next to his ear at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, you didn't know he's a big listener of this podcast?
Well,
they're probably sitting there in Mar-a-Lago listening to us right now.
yeah, exactly. Well, perfect. We've done our job.
Look out for all those big Mar-a-Lago orders for your puzzle. They're going to see that puzzle and be like, that's real Americana. Let's do it. You might want to have some like McDonald wrappers on the side of the road there, though.
Well, you know what? We'll increase production. I'll call the puzzle guys right after this and have them start ramping up.
Okay, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to go flying off the shelves. Great. Okay, cool. Well, yeah. So where do people find you? We'll put like your LinkedIn in the show notes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. That's where to find me. If you're in Oregon and you want to have coffee, you can find me here.
Okay.
But I'd love to connect with people like you who've got ideas or want to just get creative and think about how we can, advance this clean energy transition and connect with audiences in just new creative ways.
Well, great. Well, I enjoyed talking to you. I thought we had a good conversation. And if you want to sign up and be on the podcast again, just go there and do it. You have the link.
Yeah, thanks. Great. I emailed you and now I'm here. So thank you for inviting me. Really great meeting you and appreciate, what you're doing.
Yeah, and thanks for telling me how to make that Harvard MBA certificate with ChatGPT. Saves me a lot of money and trips to Massachusetts, where it's like a little bit colder than I'm going to want to be. So that'll be great. Yeah. Did you know that I studied at Harvard? Like I went to teach some classes out there. Last year I taught a bunch of classes in Massachusetts, and I've done a bunch over the years. And sometimes after class, I would go there and study at the student union just so I could say I studied at Harvard. So,
Well, I got in as a business school student, after working for a few years,
Yeah, you and Obama or whatever. Yeah, doing that Harvard thing. Yeah.
Bush.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, very cool. Very fun to talk to you.
Hey.
And let's do it again sometime. Thank you so much, Mark Jacobs. And everybody go out there and get your puzzles, and you could learn about preventing Alzheimer's. Probably puzzles do that because you're putting all these old pieces together. And hopefully if somebody loses one piece of a puzzle, you guys could send them that piece. That's probably a good service for puzzle companies. Another business idea that I had. And let's go on and let's get together and make some coal rolling devices for electric vehicles. I think we need that there to get rural people into EVs. I think that would be so cool to be able to make a cloud of smoke come out of an EV. I think that'll change the world.
That's the number one takeaway from this conversation, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to Shawn White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. Go to SolarSEAN.com and get yourself educated. Take some of my classes, get yourself NABCEP certified, maybe learn a little bit about four-wheeled energy storage, get the ESIP, that's the Energy Storage Installation Professional certification for NABCEP or any other NABCEP certification. Check it out, SolarSEAN.com. Have a great one. Ow!